all of you will, in one way or another, know something's wrong, that you can't quite put your finger on it. Well, I've decided to set up a YouTube channel. I feel like Mr. Beast, 10 years from now, they'll all look back on this one video and like, that's where it all began. But the truth for it is, there's obviously a lot of content out there at the moment, and always has been, always will be. A lot of noise, a lot of difficult things to be like, is that true? Is that not true? Is that AI? Is that real? And it's quite tiring. And my thinking of my own YouTube channel is actually less around just making tons of content and trying to grab attention, and more geared towards actually talking about something I've learned about my own journey in the last few years, especially in the last sort of 18 months, going through a depressive cycle, a suicidal state, going down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, PTSD, ADHD diagnosis, just life in general. Sorry, I get distracted because my dog likes to chew through the lead. And everything else that I've sort of gone through in my life. And, you know, I was fortunate. I came out the back end of it and I didn't jump off a cliff. I didn't do something that I'd done in my life. And I chose a path to recovery, and that was very difficult in itself. And, you know, it was troubling at times, and it got harder before it got easier. But then going on this kind of falling into a rabbit hole of conspiracy theories and like getting angry at the world, and then, you know, losing track of who I was again. It's all happened in the space of like 15 months, since last January to now, 18 months. And then I went through it and I started to come into a zone which was very different, where through not ridiculously, but through going down the path and the rabbit hole of learning around who controls it all and wearing my foil hat and, you know, everything that's wrong, realizing there's really not much I can do about that, right? Nor can you. And maybe people could argue there is stuff you could do about it. I come to believe that doing something about anything like that actually starts within. And I think that led me to a pathway that I randomly come across, Gnosticism. I started to learn more about religion, and then I started to understand more about spirituality and how so much of these different faiths and beliefs and these religions and belief in different gods, what spirituality is, it starts within. And I actually read, not that I'm a deeply religious person whatsoever, and actually I'd probably classed myself more as an atheist. And then I read a sentence that God is within you. And for someone like me who used to turn my nose up at that stuff and think there's no big man in the sky or pearly gates or anything like that, I started to actually look at what a lot of those teachings from thousands of years ago, you know, from Christ and his disciples were talking about, which was around, none of it's out there, all of it's in here. Heaven's within you, God's within you, divine spark's within you. And then all of a sudden I've gone on this journey myself of I've been a Royal Marine, I've been to war, I've left, I've built businesses, looked successful, deeply depressed, hating everything that I do, falling apart, burnt out, stressed, to then go down the hatred rabbit hole of everything's against us and these world elites and everything else out there, to then find religion and faith and Gnosticism and spirituality. And I actually found it really confusing for quite a while because it challenged everything that I was falsely against. But when I read God is within you and actually what these teachings were about, which is looking internally, finding that divine spark and looking at personal growth, all that made sense to me. For a long time I've been brought into the personal development journey. I've always been interested in self-improvement, self-development, and there's a whole industry behind that as well. You know, the likes of Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, Simon Sinek, Mel Robbins, all those people. I think it became more and more superficial, and it became more about the sales than it did about actually helping people, and I stand by that. But I was always interested in it, and I think putting two and two together, I was like, this thousands of years of teaching something internal, to find it, to live more fulfilled, more purpose-led, develop as a human, is pretty much the same as all that other stuff that the modern age was trying to teach in personal development, with the likes of those names that I mentioned, and yet they're seen through completely different lenses. And I was like, well, actually they're completely the same thing. And it led me on a really interesting path, and I'm still on that path. And I thought, I'm not here to create a channel to tell people about the next big conspiracy or the next guru's insight on how to develop. I think we're all working that out as we go. What I wanted to share more of was the path that I'm on, which I've come on to describe as the liminal path, which is essentially the path between a place and another place, right? So in the center, what I kind of liken it to is the old you and then the new you, and you're trying to find yourself to the new you, but you're stuck in this kind of no man's land, this middle ground. You're getting bored. We're going to have to do this on every walk, she's thinking. No. See, I told you she'd eat the lead. Excuse me. No. But it got me thinking around how many other people are also on very similar journeys. And I tell you a way to think about it is almost all of you will, in one way or another, know something's wrong, that you can't quite put your finger on it, but there's something bigger that you want to do. There's something more that you want to do. There's something wider and broader you want to understand. You could feel it in you. You could literally feel this thing in you. But the world around you, the busyness that we live in, the distracted world, the distracted life, doesn't enable us to really physically tap into that. And I think for me, it was standing on a cliff, questioning my whole existence, walking away from it, and then something weirdly joining me that day without realizing, and then going on this path for the last 18 months of the ups and downs and the discovery to arrive at this point where I thought, well, if I can help people just slightly see that their own spark within them, or that feeling you feel, that sort of feels like it grips your heart a little bit, is real and is not to be ignored. And if I can help just get people to just acknowledge that, don't have to do anything with it, but just to acknowledge that, I think that would be a really positive thing for me to be part of and do. So that's where the liminal path came from. That's why this all exists. This is why I'm trying YouTube. This is why I'm trying content. I might give it to my kids to edit. So if it ends up with emojis, fast paced and all sorts of weird stuff happening, you know why. But maybe we just need a more simple, relaxed channel which talks about some of this stuff. Yeah. So my key takeaway point for you on this one is, do you even see, feel or hear that kind of grip something has around your heart that's telling you to do something, that there is more, that there is bigger, that there is that discovery to be made within you, but you don't know how to yet. And that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter at all. But there is something there. And that's the bit this whole video leads to, is just sitting with that. Isn't that right? Should we go? Okay, we gotta go before I have to buy a new lead.